Hey there. Hope everybody's doing all right. I'm on a Boker kick lately. I know I said I wasn't going to buy a lot of vintage knives and work on them. I was going to start trying to buy more modern U.S. knives, but here I am again. I was able to acquire this pre-World War II Boker sports messer or camp knife, the pattern 182. And I was just intrigued by the knife when I saw it, and the price was just too good to pass up. So I got it, but what intrigued me about it was it has wood covers. Now, I've never seen another one with wood covers in person, in pictures, online. I've asked a couple people, they've not seen one. So they could be replacements. And I also know that I said when I reviewed this book on Boker knives, Boker, 2 Centuries and 2 Countries Representing One Name in Cutlery Excellence by Ricky Ray, Neil Punchard. Neil Punchard's the associate editor of Knife Magazine. Ricky Ray is the collector. He contacted me or left a comment when I did a review on this book and said that they had researched for 10 years. It took 2 years to write. Just a great book. I'm going to put the link where you can go buy your own copy if you're a Boker fan or want to be. You really owe it to yourself to get this book. But anyway, when I reviewed this book, I said the book stated that these pre-World War II camp knives were always in bone or stag. But then I found this one. And so I went back and I gave that section of the book a closer read. And what it actually says is they're usually in bone with some seen in stag. So you could interpret that a couple different ways, but it does leave the door open to other materials being used. So if anybody knows of any of these that have appeared in wood before, please let me know. I do know that also according to this book, this knife pattern, this humpback frame, if you will, was actually introduced in 1930. Boker, will say that this sports messer is their oldest continuously produced knife. Goes all the way back to 1869 when they first started in Zolligen. That's a little misleading because apparently before 1930 their 6-bladed utility knife was just an equal-ended frame and looked a lot more like a Swiss Army knife or something perhaps. But so this knife is pre-World War II, dates from 1930 up to 1944. I know that by the shield and the tank stamp. We'll talk about that in a minute. But here's your pre-World War II shield. And I'll just compare it here to one I believe is just after the war. Now these smaller ones usually say Zolligen under the tree. This one does not. But here you can see it's bigger. It's got a wider border. The tree is bigger. It's more dished in. Looks more like a medallion. And then just to show you a modern one, here we have one with a smaller tree and it says Zolligen. And Boker's gone back to a little bigger one that just has the tree and a black background. So they've got a new shield for 2020 and on, and it looks really a lot more like that. These could be replacements, but I'm really leaning toward factory original. The reason I say that is just the fit is so excellent. It's just seamless, airtight. All the cutouts are in the right place in the proper shape. Shield's fitted in there well. Cutouts are good. And these pins here. So these are the pins that hold the covers to the liners, and they look totally unmolested to me. Now you can take this knife apart by taking out the pins and the pivots, taking out spring pins, but when you take it apart, these traditional knives, the bolsters are soldered to the liners and the covers are pinned to the liners. So you can keep all that together as one unit. If you wanted to replace the cover, you'd have to drill out these pins, and I just don't think that's been done. Being a pre-World War II knife and dating from 1930 to 1944, it occurs to me that this is probably a wartime knife. Could be at least a knife during the Nazi Germany period. So my German history is not all that great as I stand here, but as I recall, You know, in the early 30s, you still had the Weimar Republic. But I think by like 1932 or so, the Nazi Party was in control of Parliament, had the most seats. And then I think in 33, Hitler was named Chancellor. So this knife most likely is from Nazi-era Germany. And if it was produced during World War II, you know, resources could have been really scarce. Might have been really hard to get staghorn to put on a knife. Kind of a luxury item, or maybe even cow bone. So maybe they used other materials, whatever they had on hand. So I believe this to be cocobolo. I'm not a wood expert, but it just has that look to me. And as you'll notice, the back is much more red or reddish than the front. And cocobolo will do that over time. It starts off very reddish and will darken over time as it's exposed to light and air. So it's plausible this knife could have sat like this for many years, taking light and exposure on this side, darkening the wood, and this side not. You can see where this piece wants to darken in certain places. And it started to get a little bit of black in it. So it has that ability to darken and blacken like that. So I don't think those are two different pieces of types of wood. They could be from different samples, but I think we're just looking at, if you look at the wood grain, it's really very similar. It's the same type of wood. One piece, the front, is just, of course, darker. You can see red hues in that piece, though. Just want to point out on the bail here, got that mysterious set of markings again. A dot, a couple lines, cross lines, another line, and some dots across. I have no idea what that signifies, but you often see that on the old ones. This bail is a little different shape. It's more squarish, and it's also more flattish. Let's take a look at the tools. Let's start with the main blade. I want to show you the tang stamp because that helps us date the knife. So here you have simply H. Boker & Co. line 1, and then line 2, and the final line, Zolligan. So according to the Boker tang stamp chart that first appeared in Knife magazine and also appears in the book that I just referenced, this tang stamp was used by Boker from 1869 when they first started making knives in Zolligan, up to 1944 when their factory was bombed during World War II and destroyed. So that is solidly dates this knife pre-World War II. And if you'll notice there's no umlaut over the O in Boker. If you have an umlaut over your O, your knife is 1932 or after, definitely. On the back is the tree symbol. Typically, if the symbol's on the back, your knife is older than one that might have the tree symbol on the front. And you'll also notice the word there, Rostfrei, which is German for stainless. So this knife is in stainless steel, which is really neat. I think that was kind of a premium feature back then. I have had one other pre-World War II Boker Camp knife. It was in staghorn. It also was in stainless. It had the exact same tang stamp you see here with the tree on the back. But instead of just saying Rostfrei, it said stainless in 3 different languages, German, French, and English. It said Rostfrei, inoxidable, and stainless. It's quite possible that this blade may have been replaced, even though it has the exact appropriate tang stamp. The reason I say that is it is just a little shorter and narrower than my other samples. Here's this post-World War II one again. That could be because this knife had the tip broken and was reprofiled. Perhaps it's just was thinner to start with. Maybe it's been worn from sharpening over the years. This one does not have a blade edge. I've seen pre-World War II ones in carbon that do have the 182 blade edge, but the stainless one that I had did not. And there's a picture in this book book that I just referenced, the Boker book, of a pre-World War II one here where you have no blade etch. Here's your post-World War II one with the 182 etch. So perhaps this one just never had it, or it was worn away. Likewise with this knife. But anyway, perhaps it was replaced because the shape is a little different and it seems to cant back. That could be because it was hyper-extended. If you look at the back spring here, you can see a little lip there. Hear that? Where it was bent. So perhaps it's the original blade and it's just been tipped and worn away from sharpening and overextended. But it doesn't seem to be the exact same dimensions or fit as some of my others. If it is a replacement, somebody went and got a stainless spear point blade with the exact same tang stamp that's on the smaller blade and should be on this knife. So if it was done, it was probably done back in the day. One thing about these knives that's interesting is the markings. All the tools on the top side will be marked, and the corresponding tool is just marked on the other side. So I guess what I mean by that, it's kind of reversed. So let me get the small blade up. Here you see the H. Boker & Co. Zollegen, and on the back the tree and the word Ross Fry, and then on the back of the small blade H. Boker & Company Zollegen, and on the front the tree and the word Ross Fry. So just flip-flopped. So that's why I think maybe this is an original blade. Again, just hard to know. Here's the screwdriver cap lifter, and I noticed it's smaller than the later models, and that's okay. It also looks smaller in that picture in the book. You've got the tree symbol on the front, and again on the opposite tool, nothing on the front, but the tree symbol is on the back. So that's your can opener, of course. And those are the top side tools. Oh, I did sharpen and polish this blade. I actually sanded some of the superficial scratches out of it, but I didn't take all the scratches out, as you can see. The deeper ones remain. I just thought that would look a little inconsistent with the rest of the knife. The knife is older, it's nicked and scratched, and I thought it would look weird if the blades were perfect. So I just kind of cleaned them up, but left scratches in them. I did put really nice edges on them. And again, the smaller one was actually short, and it had been reprofiled kind of badly, so I tried to, it was a little kind of curved here and flattish along the bottom, so I tried to flatten the top here and curve it at the bottom to give it a little bit of a belly. I wanted it to look more like the original clip point blade. And then the back tools here, we've got the corkscrew. These again are really long, kind of a narrow curl or coil to them. Here are your brass liners. And here's the punch. It's being stainless, it's not blued inside or anything. It has a good edge. One thing I want to show you about these older models is you see this brass spacer here? It's tapered like a wedge, and kind of like you'd see on a whittler or something, because the knife is actually thicker here at the back, or wider at the back than it is at the front. So you need that tapering spacer. And the more modern ones, they don't have that. What they do is they put a double brass divider in the middle there. They double up on the brass there in the middle. But the knife is the same width, fore and aft, unlike, get these turned around the same way, unlike the old ones. Kind of interesting. Oh, and I just want to show you one other thing down inside as far as the construction of these old knives. And it's the way the shield is pinned. So on most knives, older knives where the shield is pinned in, there's going to be one or two little pins that go through the liner and are pinned out on the other side. Here what Boker does, if you can see down in there, there's a cutout, like a slot in the liner. See that? And there are tabs on the shield that go in there and bend over. You can just barely see them. So that's a pretty cool way to attach a shield. And then in here you can also see that middle spacer tapering down. The knife's got most of its snapback. That one's a little weak, but it had almost none when I got it. The knife was pretty dirty when I got it, so I did clean it up. Pretty much did a full refurbishment on it other than sanding the blades all the way out. So I guess we'll do before and after pictures.